Here we go. This is Here Now. Steve Struggle and myself, Dr. Ibrahim. And we've got lots to talk about and lots happening in this world. So let's get to it. What do you have, Steve?
Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you, Abraham, for allowing me to have this show with you. Our viewers may or may not be aware of the U.S. instigated attack in Jalisco, Mexico on Sunday morning. They collaborated with the Mexican government and various military wings of the Mexican government to assassinate an alleged leader of the Jalisco New Generation Cartel. His nickname is El Mencho. And the reason why I want to bring this to the attention of our viewers, because there may be some confusion or we may have different of opinion about what kind of alliances the developing countries can make with imperialist countries. And when the imperialist countries want to inflict violence within the developing countries, what should the working class, the oppressed people, the progressive people, what should they say about it? You know, I did some research on this yesterday. I'll be doing some more. But needless to say, I would say no less than $5 to $10 billion has been invested into Mexico by the U.S. government to quote unquote fight drugs. And as I'm sure Abraham has a view on this, the drug business is a consumption business. If people don't consume it, no, this person goes out of business. And in many of the developing countries, the drug business is a business that employs people, donate money to schools. It's a business. Drugs in the United States, now marijuana is legal, but basically alcohol and marijuana are the only drugs that are legal beside pharmaceuticals. But let me get to the point. So the U.S. government pretty much set the groundwork for this assassination Sunday. $115 million reward for El Mencho's capture or death. We're not sure what's going to happen now with that money. All these stories in the press about how this happened and that happened. Who knows what happened because there's no videos being released to the public. There's no body cam footage of anything that I know of. They claimed that El Mencho was captured alive, but died in a helicopter or airplane ride to Mexico City.
Che Guevara, he was captured alive.
Exactly. That's exactly what I'm talking about. The same kind of situation. And I've had some time to think about this today. And I'm going to say something that may be controversial. El Mencho had a right to a trial.
Yeah.
Yes, he did. If you're accusing him of something and you attack his house, he's going to defend himself. Wouldn't you? Yes, you would, unless you someone's going to give up. He had a right to defend himself. And this is controversial. I'm saying an alleged drug cartel member had a right to self-defense, especially if the United States is instigating the Mexican security forces, many of which, let's just be honest about it, these guys and women who they have on these assaults have to be vetted very carefully. Their salary is so low that me in a small town, the police, they just take the money from the cartel. Okay, man, it's cool. Don't worry about it. That's how it goes.
It's more than a business, Steve. It's an economy. It's an
Right.
It's
Right.
it's an
Thank you.
entire economy for the lowest the poorest, lower sectors of the population that the government doesn't
This,
take care of.
that's it.
Yeah.
That's it. And whether you and I have our feelings about this economy, it is an economy. Okay, and whether I'm saying there's discussion about this. So in my view, if President Scheinbaum and the Mexican government and connection, the Mexican military and business interests are going to allow Mexican soldiers to be killed as part of a U.S. or to die as part of a U.S. instigated military assault, what comes next? They told you can't sell oil you can't give oil to Cuba, and you're agreeing. So are you gonna give Cuba the 15 million? Who collected $15 million? Mexico.
Hmm.
Who gets that money? Because El Mencho is dead now, so he's been captured and he's deceased. I want our audience to think about this, because if we think about it just as far as drugs and the cartels and how terrible they are, you're missing the picture here. You really are. A few years ago, the former president, Andres Manuel Lopez Obrador, tried something similar. It never has been clear if the U.S. was behind this or that raid, but in the area called Culiacan, in the northern part of Mexico, and it was a disaster. Their soldiers were routed. The Mexican soldiers were routed by the Sinaloa cartel. AMLO said, "I'm not doing that again. I'll find someone to deal with these guys or prosecute them on another level. I'll cut off their money supply. I'll cut off this. I'll do this. I'm not going to go after the military." So Scheinbaum made a tactical disaster, a strategic disaster to play right into the hands of the United States, who told you how to run your business. You can't even give you're banned from giving oil to Cuba.
Yeah, I understand. This is on the Venezuelan model. The government has backed down in order to avoid a military intervention, obviously.
Right, or something to avoid something. But now Mencho is dead. There was rebellions. There was armed conflict around the country. And I looked at some of the videos, and I'm not belittling what I saw, but besides the conflict, which we didn't see on video of the 39 Mexican soldiers being killed, it consists of pretty much blocking a road and burning a bus and burning a car and trying to burn a gas station. Okay, so, and a bunch of young guys look at their on maybe in their early 20s riding around in motorcycles, shooting guns in the air. Now, Scheinbaum was very stupid, in my opinion. I'm not mincing my words. This is one of the most notorious cartels in the Western Hemisphere. Why she thinks that she is immune from a retaliatory strike is just crazy to me. I'm not saying what they're going to do. I'm not promoting them doing anything to her, but they're the kind of group.
Yeah, if she backs down once, she's going to be forced to back down another time after that. Well,
exactly. But the imperialists are showing that when it comes to the developing nations, they'll bribe you with money, or they'll do a Maduro and block your access to resources in order to control you. Another case in point, about 3 months ago, actually 2 months ago, there was a what is now said as a very poorly planned coup d'etat in Benin, in Western Africa, in Francophone Africa. And France called on their good lackeys in Nigeria, which is part of the former British Empire, to bomb Benin. And they carried out the order. And one of the reasons that coup failed was because France bombed the rebels. Nigeria is part of Western Africa, but they have they obviously have some kind of alliance with France, on
Mm.
on the table or on the table that they took orders from France to attack a former France colony.
Yeah. Mm.
Again, doing the bidding of a Western power, putting your military out there. So this is going on in quite a few in these two examples.
Yeah,
And
I would add
you
that
know,
Benin is an ally of Burkina Faso.
well, yeah, yeah, yes. Uh-huh. So I just think I mean, maybe the impact because I have an internationalist viewpoint. The impact on my thinking was quite profound. But the U.S. believes that decapitation strikes kill movements. A strong social movement, it doesn't kill. It doesn't. It actually makes it stronger.
Yeah, it never worked before.
And
Yeah.
it hasn't worked before. No. Um, as opposed to what happened in Indonesia in the 60s, where they killed all the movement. They killed
Yeah.
millions of people, and there has not been a communist movement since in Indonesia. So you have to kill the whole movement. It can mean, literally commit genocide against the participants, the supporters. But
Yeah.
that's not what happens in Mexico. Like you said, the drug economy is an economy, and people live off of it. So you have to kill all the people, which Mexico's not going to do.
Mhm.
So I want people to just realize that all this bloodshed in Mexico is caused by the United States. They caused the bloodshed on Sunday. They've been paying since 2007 billions of dollars to the Mexican military to help them with so-called anti-narcotics operations. And the pinnacle of that operation was Sunday.
Mhm.
Trump has threatened to invade Mexico
Mhm.
many times. And the Mexicans said, we can take care of it, boss. Don't worry about it.
Mhm.
That's pretty much what they said. So and they carried it out on Sunday. They
Yeah.
showed themselves to be quite loyal servants of the United States. Yet their own communities suffered lockdown, stress, terror, deaths, destruction of property because of their actions. And we'll just have to see what happens next. The way the propaganda is going to be spread within Mexico, and the feelings of people in the community about what really went down.
Yeah.
Um, and I want people also to not look at it as the narcos. The narcos, no, don't look at it like that. There's
Mhm.
more to this. There's more to this than that.
Yeah.
That's it.
I have a point to make on that, because if there's, all this fuss and bother, being made about, drugs being brought into the United States of America, there's two points that are missed out. First of all, how come tobacco is legal if it's supposed to be, noxious to
It's
healthy humans?
cancerous. It's
Yeah.
cancerous.
I mean, it's worse than,
It, ca-
cocaine, right?
yeah, it
Why?
causes it causes death.
Yeah.
Straight up. Yeah,
But it's not outlawed. No, it's big business. Okay.
sure isn't. No, it isn't.
So
Yeah.
the reason that there's this drug war is not for, in the interest of the population. No, that's not what it's all about. No, it's because the drug trade is not controlled by Americans, period.
Good
When
point.
it was used, to finance, the counter-revolutionaries in Nicaragua, you know, and they had,
Sure was.
smart CIA agent, who figured out how to
Iran.
have a slush fund there, to finance the counter-revolutionaries, who ended up losing, but nonetheless, like then it was okay, to import, cocaine into the USA. Yeah, but it was a good cause, and all this. And did anybody get arrested or charged then? No.
Not one. They
Yeah.
even had hearings. They even had congressional hearings on the Iran Contra drug scandal.
Yeah. Yeah.
The CIA chief was called to the hearings.
Yeah. And then he did his tap dance there, and then that was it. The whole thing was over. No charges. Okay.
Tap dance, and he left. Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. So now, second point is, America has a drug problem. People
Yeah.
are so depressed, have no opportunity to ever find any work, have no, nothing that's, like fed their lives, with anything that's close to civilization, and they are
Oh,
suicidal. They are suicidal, mass suicidal. Uh, a pandemic, is happening in the United States. People are giving up on life. What are they going for? Drugs, because drugs lifts them out of it, makes them forget about, what everything else is happening around them, you know. So drugs, give them some joy. For a little bit of joy, they're willing to risk their lives because they have nothing else left. That's all they have, is a bit of cocaine or crack. That's it, you know. Now, if they're offered something better, then they'll choose it, right? If they're offered, a training program,
right.
other than the military, like other than joining the military for a training program. Can you get a training program and education for free, otherwise? That's what's necessary because these people don't have any money. They just scrounge up some money, for a bit of cocaine or go and steal something, to exchange for some bucks, to get some cocaine. I don't even know what the price is, but it's pathetic. And this is America's problem. How come there's not a similar drug problem elsewhere, like in the source of the cocaine in the first place, Colombia? Are all the Colombians, like on cocaine? No, you know, they've got something to live for. Mexico, how much of a drug problem is there? Never heard anything about that.
Never known anything about it. Sure haven't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a drug problem, it's an American problem. It's not the drug that's the problem, it's America that's a problem. Period. Yeah.
Very well said. Very well said. I think that almost wraps it up
Well,
because
yeah,
without that recognition, you fall back in these false narratives.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
I'm saying that El Mencho and his crew died because of that, not because they were the bad boys, but because of that society that compels and requires and condemns people to drug addiction of
Yeah.
some type of addiction. Yeah,
Yeah. So do they go and help the people who are addicted? No. They spend the money on military to go after the guys who are making some money that is not controlled by an American transnational corporation.
it sure
And
isn't.
and this drug business, like is big, like it's billions international,
It's billions internationally, and they can't touch it. They can't tax
they
it.
can't touch it,
Yeah,
they can't tax it, nothing. So, like they got angry. Okay, tough. Like they don't control, the market of the world anymore. And um, and also their hegemony over the uh, world economy has come to an end. One, two, the military domination of the United States is not comparable to what it was before. Not because it doesn't have more guns and ships, but because others do have more guns and ships. Huh? So, the United States can't get away with, whatever it wants to, anymore, militarily speaking. Like if they want to take on Iran, they're going to suffer.
and they still haven't taken on Iran, have they?
No, no, no. They know that they would be in trouble if they did so, because there's China and Russia right behind them, waiting to take them on. So, they're not, like if they did and lost, then that would be, like what the Tsar did, when he had a war against Japan. He lost the war, discredited himself entirely, was losing the war, with Germany. So what did the soldiers do? They voted 83% for the Bolsheviks and the Soviets and the soldier Soviets. That's how the Bolsheviks, won the revolution there, is because the military voted as, military Soviets. They took over the military, voted to stop the war, voted to support the Bolsheviks and the Soviet, and that was it. That's how the revolution was made, together with, the working class in the cities. Then the peasants came along afterwards, peasants were the social revolutionary party. and they were sort of, hung up, with the provisional government. But, even though they were more numerous, and the Bolsheviks, overall in the entire population had like 23% of the population in the Constituent Assembly, because the peasants didn't even know the Bolsheviks existed. What kind of communication system would peasants have? Like an iPhone? No way. So, you know, that's how it happens. The military decides that they won't take it anymore. They're not going to be
Right.
killed for no good reason. So that'll happen in U.S. military as well, I hope. That'll be the key, the military
Yeah.
and National Guard, to stop ICE. Uh, and
Huh.
if ICE wants a civil war, they'll get it. Yeah.
Yeah. That's interesting. I want to. If ICE wants a civil war, that's
Yeah.
very curious.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
that's what they're moving for. They think that they can implement, martial law on their own because they have a gun, you know, and not even, the Trump, President Trump, can declare martial law. Couldn't get away with that. And the ICE, thinks that they can. No way. The same thing, like with Netanyahu, he thinks he can get away with the annexation of the West Bank. No way. 20 countries already have denounced them. That's where I'm going. That's where I'm
Yeah.
going.
He told me. He told me.
Yeah.
He told me.
To help out in the Palestinian revolution against colonization. Yeah. That's where it's happening. If they can get away with it in Palestine, they're going to do it everywhere else. So we
Right.
have to stop
Right.
them in Palestine. Yeah. Yeah.
So I think we've covered it. I appreciate your coming on and sharing some ideas, and we'll keep you all up to date on what's going on. Any feedback, updates, responses. See just what's going to happen in Mexico and in Latin America behind this situation. We just want to make sure we gave you an analysis of something you could use in your thinking and in your work as you fight back to organize. This will be coming up in conversations, and we don't want you to be caught unaware or off guard because
Yes.
world situation changes, and it will happen. We'll be caught off guard. That's going to happen. But on this one, we want to make sure that you weren't caught off guard. That's all.
And we have a new task for the progressives or the leftists, or the revolutionaries in the United States. Take care of your addicts. You've got to set up, centers with qualified medical people to help them get out of it, and turn them into a direction that means something for their lives. That is to become revolutionaries. We have to convert the addicts into revolutionaries. That's what we have to do to solve the drug problem. Period.
All right. Well said, and words that should be taken upon and acted upon.
Okay, here we go.